We know that human rights matter. We in the Scottish Parliament and Scottish civil society have been talking for nearly 2 decades about the incorporation of economic, social and cultural rights into Scottish law. And for almost a whole decade, the Scottish Government has been committed to it. We know that fulfilment of those rights, rights to education and health, to work and social security, to food and housing, to a decent standard of living and participation in cultural life, all are essential in themselves so that individuals and families can thrive. But they are also vital for our shared life together, to give people the space, the tools, the capacity to care for one another and for our living planet, to grow the safe and sustainable communities without which we would have no real future at all. And we in the Scottish Greens steadfastly hold on to that commitment. We believe that incorporating rights into robust law with clear minimum core obligations and duties of progressive realisation would represent not just a single tool, but a whole workshop of mechanisms to address our key priorities: child poverty, climate and nature degradation, inequality and the insidious spread of toxic attitudes and actions. As we in the Equalities, Human Rights and Civil Justice Committee heard in evidence this October, the Scottish Human Rights Act we hoped to see would have ensured the constitutional priority of human rights, overriding the short-term interests of any particular political party. It would have embedded human rights into the heart of decision-making and made brutal cuts, like that to winter fuel payments, not only morally but legally unacceptable. That was a vision that we believed was shared by the Scottish Government, which was why the decision not to bring forward the bill during this Parliament, communicated so starkly by its absence in the programme for government, was such a raw shock and a profound disappointment. And that shock and disappointment were felt equally acutely by the individuals and organisations who have worked so hard on the process to date. So many people gave up so much time and energy, not just physical and mental, but emotional energy, in telling their stories of pain and trauma, believing that would lead, in known and measured timescales, to a groundbreaking and transformational law. Now, I appreciate the difficulties which have arisen as a result of the Supreme Court's UNCRC decision and the hope the Cabinet Secretary has for opportunities to work with the new UK Government. But the judgment was 3 years ago, and the change at Westminster no great surprise. No state secrets would have been betrayed if the Scottish Government had shared a little more communication, shown a little more courtesy, a little more respect, because people are angry. There was a gathering of human rights activists outside this building at lunchtime today. They are angry, frustrated and disappointed. I share their anger, frustration and disappointment. But this is not just about hurt feelings. This is about our relationships as a parliament with our citizens, the organisations we rely on to do vital life-saving work, our partners in the endeavour to make our world a better place. Trust has been broken, Presiding Officer, as further evidenced by the Just Citizens Group open letter to the Cabinet Secretary. This group highlighted not only the scrapping of the Human Rights Bill, but also the Disability Equality Plan, the funding of weapons manufacturers and other issues as examples where consultation was carried out and then subsequently ignored. These community groups, grassroots organisations and advocacy and support networks feel tokenised and exploited, their words. Their engagement serving as, and again I quote, backdrops for performative gestures. But there are ways to rebuild trust. In the words of a gypsy traveller who took part in recent work with MECOP and the Scottish Women's Budget Group that I was pleased to hear about in a webinar earlier today, listen to us, to our communities, listen to our voices. It's our lived experiences. But don't just listen, act on what we say, not just ticking boxes to say you've listened. In my closing speech, Presiding Officer, I'll outline some of the other ways that we need to take to consider and act on to help rebuild that trust. Because as Angela O'Hagan reminded the Equalities Committee, members of this Parliament are all to be guarantors of human rights. I believe it is at the heart of our role in relation to the rights of people in Scotland and beyond who are profoundly affected by what we do, and equally by what we fail to do. Thank you.